adults are predictable. They expect you to behave as though what you do today is going to have an effect on where you'll be in 30 years. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that there's going to be anything in 30 years. I don't know what's worse, you know? Being blown up in a nuclear war or having a 7-Eleven on every corner. You want it to be just like you? I think maybe if I had your...
I thought that was a fine trailer. Did you guys notice the logo?
I did
Really
enjoy
good.
the font.
It was really good.
The font was really cool.
It was really cool. So, do you know what the term "gleaming the cube" actually means? It means achieving ultimate bliss, like a Buddha.
Oh,
like
really?
yeah. He talked about that. His buddy in the film talked about that.
Yep.
So, Dan, why don't we, since we just watched that trailer, give us an intro. Say, welcome us to Movie and a Beer.
All right. Welcome to Movie and a Beer. This is Dan Kapersky, and we'd like to, first of all, thank you all for being safe during this wonderful COVID time. Thank you for listening. And tonight we're going to be discussing a really cool movie back from 1989, which is amazingly old. I was a senior in high school oh my God, it was a long time ago. A really long time ago. Everyone's laughing. Like, there's people who were in there like, how old were you, Blake?
I was 4 years old.
All right, so...
No, five.
Tonight we have with us our usual cast and crew.
Randall.
Blake.
Yay. So we had the intent of watching a movie to kind of connect with one of our previous episodes, and that episode covered, I guess we could call it BMX racing. It was the movie Rad.
It was a way of life.
It was a way of life. It is a way of life. And so we thought about, hey, let's pick another movie that showcased another athletic skill set or sport of some sort. And we thought, hey, what about Gleaming the Cube? And one of our members had not seen it before. And we thought, hey, what a better opportunity than this to experience what we thought was going to be a skate movie from what we had seen in the previews and what we remember, having seen it a very long time ago. We actually thought that this was more about skating, and it was the exact opposite.
To be fair, there was skating. There's just also a murder mystery and weird melodrama and
family drama
and Pizza Hut.
And Pizza Hut shows up a few times in the truck. And, you know, and we had talked briefly just before we started about what Gleaming the Cube actually means.
What does it mean?
It was brought up in the movie by one of the supporting actors. And it actually refers to the equivalent of finding your cosmic bliss, or, you know, if you're Buddhist, you know, if you follow Buddhism, you find your inner Buddha and you become peaceful with yourself in the universe. And part of it, you know, I myself, back when I was doing a lot of cycling, mountain biking, there's people that say that you can get into the zen of whatever it is you're doing and you kind of just are on it.
I don't believe that. That's a lie.
You don't? I do. I used to get into the zen of biking, and I would bike for 3 hours and not even know I was biking for 3 hours.
Yeah. Biking for 3 hours feels like biking for 3 hours. I go for a 3 hour bike ride and I feel it.
Well,
but
I
hear what you mean. There's a you lose yourself in the sport.
Yeah. I have that happen with Animal Crossing all the time. I'm always gleaming that Animal Crossing cube.
Gleaming
Yeah,
the Animal Crossing.
So this movie, Gleaming the Cube,
It makes sense.
You know, it came out in 1989.
What was this movie about?
Crazy. It was a murder mystery.
This was a murder mystery, but
It was about Tony Hawk.
this was about a kid
A kid who wants to skateboard.
who wants to skateboard.
He's a little anarchist. He has that line.
He's a Southern California punk. He's in Orange County, and he skateboards. He looks like a
seemed
punk.
pretty well adjusted.
He is pretty well adjusted. His family doesn't have a lot of money, but they're obviously rich enough to buy him some expensive skateboarding stuff.
and that computer.
And he has a brother who is adopted, who's Asian and Vietnamese, and part of the Vietnamese community, and kind of shunned. And part of the movie touches on that, about the cultural
They never
differences.
explain how that happened, which was a little strange for me.
Kind of. It's just an open-ended book.
Yeah. But he seemed pretty enlightened, this kid, Christian Slater's character. He was asking big questions in the beginning, like, where am I going to be in 30 years?
How can you even think
Where will any of us be in 30 years?
How can you think anything will exist in 30 years?
I know. Those are deep questions for a skater punk.
It is deep. And it's interesting. So the kind of subplot is that there's, you know, shipments of equipment, medical supplies supposed to be going back to Vietnam. Anti-communist party stuff.
Oh yeah, there was a bunch of anti-communist stuff in this movie.
And lo and behold, it wasn't just medical supplies. And the
Wait.
poor,
What was it?
You know, they discover there's other things being shipped back because the weights didn't match up.
Like Beanie Babies?
Well, if you could throw a Beanie Baby at 200 miles per hour and hit somebody with it, then sure.
Okay, so maybe not Beanie Babies. Bean bags? I'm not sure I'm on the bees right now. Oh, because it's full of bullets.
Yes, guns and bullets.
This movie did not do well.
No, it didn't. It barely made enough to cut. Yeah,
Budget,
the budget
10 million.
10 million, and it only grossed two.
Worldwide gross 2. That's
Two and a half. That's a pretty big loss. But hey, it was young Christian Slater and a bunch of other fairly well-known Hollywood actors. Ed Lauter is the dad. He was in a lot of stuff back then.
I just don't think people were ready to talk about Vietnam.
Maybe not.
Oh,
And that did
Yeah,
play
probably not.
That played a part of it. There was some cultural aspects to it. They went to a couple of Vietnamese cultural events. He showed up trying to impress the former best friend of his then dead stepbrother or brother. I don't know what you would
Girlfriend. Wasn't that his
Yeah.
girlfriend?
call it. No, they worked together.
Oh, they worked together. That's right. They were just
She was the
friends.
daughter of the owner of the business.
Okay, I thought
okay,
they were-
yeah.
So they were just friends. I don't
That
think
makes
they
it a
were
lot
dating.
less awful to me.
Yeah.
I was watching
Yeah.
what is wrong with this character? What,
Yeah.
you
Christian
awful
Slater. That's
little
your
monster.
dead brother's
Yeah,
girlfriend.
it is, and he's totally putting the moves on her. Yeah, so
There is skateboarding. There's just
is
not as much as I
skateboarding.
wanted.
So my question to the fans is, if you do watch this movie, keep an eye out for Tony Hawk and the lovely pink shirt that he wears in multiple scenes. It's like you would think that somebody at that point in time in his career who was kind of up and coming would be able to have a wardrobe of more than one or two T-shirts, but no.
No, it's not it. He's not doing it. It's the stylist of the
Yeah,
film.
yeah.
Wow, look at this poster.
Oh,
He
that's pretty
was probably
amazing.
just that looks like a Nintendo, an NES era game cartridge cover.
Well, that's kind of what it was. I mean, back then in the late 80s, that's what it was. I mean, it looks like a photo album cover from like you would see in Miami Vice.
yeah,
Like action shot with an explosion behind you. And there were explosions.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah, there were.
so
look at this.
we do need to briefly talk about the fact that yes, this was released in other countries and the posters look way more interesting in other countries.
Oh yeah. I love. I could follow down a
Ooh, they
rabbit.
actually have like a cube with pictures on it. That's kind of cool.
Look how gleaming that cube is.
Yes, no doubt. So I think we need to touch on the fact that this is not necessarily a young child movie.
Yeah, it's PG-13, but they drop a lot of swear words, and there's adult situations all over the place.
Yeah,
What?
there's no nudity, but there is definitely some interaction between people in a very kind of a teenage way. And there's also a couple of people that get shot, but that's not any worse than what you see on TV today. Even on kids shows, they have way more violence than this movie had.
It's just,
But there's a lot of swearing and a lot of inside like inside
It was just
adult
edgy.
jokes. It was really edgy.
It was just really edgy
Yeah.
for 89. It was really trying to push that 89 edge. There was murder. There was sexy scenes.
there was the whole,
Sexy time.
there was the whole like dealing with the communist problem.
There was the
And,
communist problem.
Yeah.
There was the which stunt double is this problem?
Yeah.
There were so many stunt doubles in this. I feel like
I
was
think
it
I
the
thought you
same
just
guy?
had, I thought you just had two.
I felt
No,
Like one for
every
Vert,
scene
like
looked
one for
somebody
Vert,
else.
one for Grinds.
Because that's obviously not Christian Slater in that picture. We're looking
he
at some
wearing a
pictures, and so here's the other thing is,
Perfect
half-
for a podcast.
half the time they're not wearing helmets when they ride their skateboards, and rarely do they put them on. They are rarely wearing pads, and I'm telling you, if you're going to go 60 miles an hour down the freeway on a skateboard attached to a Camaro,
Yeah, there were some not really plausible
that was
skateboarding
not
scenes in this
realistic at
movie.
all in any way, shape, or form for anybody who has any clues about skateboarding.
I actually have a little bit of trivia on the whole helmet thing.
Oh, yeah.
really. Spill the
Apparently,
beans.
Christian Slater hated wearing the helmet because he thought he looked dorky. So he would do it when he has to. Because there's a scene where he puts the Chekhov's skate gear on, gets introduced early in the movie, and he doesn't put it on until
Oh,
like
yeah,
the end.
His loving mother
spent a
bought
lot
him-
of money.
Spent a lot of money.
Yeah,
And he was like, "Mom, you shouldn't have done that."
Well, she did it
It's
because
only my health.
she actually said, "I really like watching you skate. You look really awesome, and I want you to be safe. So here's some."
which to
Safety
their
gear.
which to their credit, I feel like not a lot of skate products show parents that are like, "Oh man, I'm really into this thing." It's always like, "Dang kids, you're skating,
Yeah.
which I guess the dad was, but go do your homework and read your your Bible or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and we kind of talked when we were watching it about, what experiences we've had with skating or people that we know that skate. And I had a little bit back when I was in high school. I didn't skate myself, but I had a lot of friends who did. And I did a lot of photo shoots with them in both vert ramp and ski and street and just running around, just taking pictures of them and like, how do you set up and how do you know when to take the picture? And seeing that they had
Dan,
professionals doing a lot of these tricks, you're like, oh, they knew what they were doing. They weren't amateurs, because I'm telling you, you're not going to land 99% of those tricks that they did.
Let me tell you, Dan, here's when you get the best photo. When it's the most rad moment.
Oh,
Duh.
there you go. Rad moment.
Sorry I got you this news too late.
We gotta record that episode still.
I know.
I didn't even mean to do that. It's just the way of life.
Well, we need to find another movie to watch with it too. So.
Totally. Movingtobeer.com for skating pics of Dan from the 80s. Everyone.
Yes. I tried to ollie once and it did not go well.
Yeah.
Randall, did you ever get into skating?
Yeah, I had a moment. I think I remember watching this film. I liked, there's a lot of things I liked about this film because I think it just captured a moment in time. It was that 80s. It just had 80s all over it. What we thought what we thought the coolest thing was in the 80s was in this film, from the wardrobe to the act of skateboarding. Christian Slater.
Christian Slater does
the way that
have a very 80s feel about him.
Yes, and the way that teenagers treated each other based on what clothes they wear, not who they were, not what successfulness they had or what they could actually do in life, but what clothes you wore determined how you were treated in high school. And I can tell you with 100% accuracy that was true, because I was a high schooler when this film came out.
Kids are really understanding. They understand if you wear different clothes. Kids, I don't know what you're talking about.
Today, but not back then.
I don't think that's changed, actually.
Yeah.
Look at these sweaters they're wearing.
I know.
There's some really great
awesome
sweaters.
And you're in Southern California and it's like 85 outside and he's wearing a wool sweater. You're like, how is that possible?
That's always bothered me as someone who doesn't handle heat well. When people wear like cowboy movies where they're like full decked out gear and it's noon. Like how are you not dead?
One of the things that really stood out to me in this film was the fact that I really feel like the directors or the writers or whoever was producing this film was trying to address some of the cultural differences between the Vietnamese community and the rest of the community.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
But it was still treated so poorly.
Yeah.
It was
so racistly. Like when the Vietnamese brother got killed, just before he got killed and he was like snooping and looking at those documents, the soundtrack
was so horrible.
was like very, very racist.
Wasn't great.
Not a lot of cultural sensitivity in this film.
No, I mean, but there were other scenes where I feel like they were really trying, like when they were there was some Vietnamese cultural event on the beach and Christian Slater shows up there and he's like saying, "What's all this weird food?" And like she's trying to
she explains it to him.
Yeah, she
explains
educates
it to
him on
She's
it.
like, it's no weirder than your weird American food. And so I will, I get it. They were trying, but still a little cringy. But I've seen like things like even as recently as like Friends and how cringy some of the things they can say, and that's pretty contemporary. So
yeah, amazing how in Friends there's no black people in New York. Weird.
None.
Huh.
How many
man.
there were so many bad sitcoms that
there was a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot. Yep. But we're not watching Friends. We're watching Gleaming the Cube.
Yeah.
And so lot to love about this film.
Yes.
You know what?
Lot to not like.
I'm inspired by Randall. I want to pick something that I liked. So I have been kind of ragging on this movie.
Yeah. What did you guys love? What
I
stood out?
genuinely enjoyed the. I kept calling it the skateboarding footloose scene.
Yes.
There's a point where it's after his brother gets killed, right? And he's just like frustrated.
That was well shot.
Christian Slater goes to I want to say parking garage, and just does like a collection of tricks, which differ from the style he does, but he does a bunch of pretty intricate skateboard tricks to kind of get through his grief and figure out I just need to get this out. I'm so upset. I can't. This is how I express myself.
Yeah,
that was really nice.
So I was telling the guys when we saw that, we're like, oh, that's a completely different skill set. That few skaters can cross over between doing half pipe, which he did in the movie, to doing street skate, which with all the intricate feet maneuvers, to then doing jumps and things on a pool, it's not a half pipe, it's just a pool.
Like a bowl.
A bowl.
Yeah.
Those are three completely different talents. And few people can do it all. And that's where I was like, they had some really good pros filling in for him, because these people could do these tricks with like precision. Like they probably didn't have to practice a whole lot to do it. They could just do it, which is amazing. And my favorite part of the movie was very similar to that. It was all of the scenes where you could see, obviously there's a double.
Yeah.
But they're highlighting this really talented kid or kids, or even when there's group scenes, I kept picking out Tony Hawk. I'm like, I grew up, I knew who Tony Hawk was. Shit. I was like, oh, there he is in a pink shirt again, and there he is in a different colored shirt, and he's driving the, Pizza Hut truck, which is awesome.
You guys know Daniel Day-Lewis?
Yes.
He retired from acting, I guess, to
Yes.
be a cobbler
Yes.
in Italy. I mean, this is old news. Christian Slater also retired from acting.
No.
And he teaches kids skateboarding now.
What?
That's amazing.
I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, he was in Mr. Robot just last year, so.
Oh, shit, yeah. Never mind, just kidding. I don't follow his career.
Yeah, I don't either, but I did enjoy him on Archer. But we're not talking about Archer.
Yeah,
We're
we're
talking
not
about
talking about Archer either.
We're talking about what are we talking about?
Gleaming. But we can now talk about the beers that we
Yeah,
have.
let's.
That's a good call.
We're going to pause for fake commercial break. We're just going to keep rolling.
Oh, well, yeah, obviously.
Blake,
All right.
give it to us.
Commercial break.
Commercial, give us our commercial.
Come on down to McSweeney's Murder and Skateboard Emporium. You need to kill a kid who's snooping around your hotel room, but you also got to skateboard and do sick tricks with Tony Hawk with his giant hair drapes. Coming down to McSweeney's Murder Emporium with the skateboards and the murder. It's knives are half off, or I'll cut you. I'll cut you.
We're leaving it in. We're going to leave it all in.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so welcome back. Movie and a snack.
Whoa, hey.
Movieandasnack.com, everybody. Just
If I have to
kidding.
set up a union to keep you in line, I'll do it.
Movie and a beer. We're talking about Christian Slater's probably finest acting work to date.
You keep telling yourself that.
I was joking that I would love to see this character that he plays in Interview with a Vampire.
That's right.
Wouldn't that be such a great movie? Like a skate movie crossed with a vampire movie?
I was about to say we have that, but they never skate in Blade. He just murders like a son of a bitch and has amazing one-liners.
Isn't that coming back, Blade?
I think the Marshall Ali was pitching to Marvel that he should be Blade. And I think they were considering adding that movie to the slate of movies before everything got shut down.
Okay. So we drank some beers that were as diverse as this movie.
To the left. Coaster.
Coaster.
Find the coaster.
Find the coaster because I spilled a little bit of my beer.
It ain't podcast if it ain't messy.
So it's movie and a beer. We talk about movies and we talk about beers. And to be honest with you, I know a fair bit about movies,
Same.
but I don't know a lot about beers.
I'm getting
And
there.
You've been learning.
I have been learning, and I really love movie and a beer for having a chance to. Well, it gives me a chance to really appreciate the beers, and we had some interesting beers, right?
Yes.
We had
One I would define as interesting without being mean,
yeah.
because we weren't.
Challenging, not a starter
There
beer.
we go. There we go.
The
The
Challenge.
phrase is it's not a starter beer.
And it was a smart move to put the starter beer between the two other beers, which were really good.
Yes.
So, Dan, walk us through what we had.
So let me.
And I'm going to try to think of, as you describe the beers, I'm going to try to make a connection to the film and why I thought these beers went really well. Because this was such an epic film. Like, I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much
Right.
as I did.
It had a collection of genres, kind
There
of.
was a lot of stuff happening.
There's
in this
a lot
movie.
happening.
It was bad, yes, but also it crossed over to being rad.
It took big swings, and Rad be with you.
It crossed over to being rad.
It took big swings, and you take a big swing, you'll either miss or you'll knock out of the park. And I think
for effort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
Okay, so yeah, I'll think of. I'm going to think about that.
Because I feel like
Why were these beers perfect for this movie? And you know what? It was a long movie, so I had 2.5 beers, which is a lot of beer for me.
I think one of them. I'm trying to remember the. I think the third one I had. So I was finishing off when we started, and then I had the middle one, which I wasn't like blown away by. But the third one, because it got better as it warmed up, which some beers do, it was like, oh man! By the end of the movie, like, oh, this is even better than when it started.
Yeah, it was
It changed like
it was like this movie.
the number of
It
changes
got
in this
better,
movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the reasons, so I'm going to plug the place that we bought some of the beers at. So
Yes.
Cerveza, which is down the street from us on North Killingsworth. We really do love going there and picking out beers because they always get stuff from small independent breweries that
Yes.
you can't find anywhere else. So we were there the other day before we watched the movie.
What else do we love about Cerveza? Let's just plug them just for a quick
Cheese
second.
curds,
Cheese curds and chicken
Cheese
sandwiches.
curds.
chicken sandwiches.
The chicken sandwiches to die for.
And their
They-
pasties are really yummy too.
When they were open, they would their menu was a rotating menu. So if they ran out of a particular beer of a certain style, you could order the next one down.
Yes.
So you can always get a style you like.
Yes.
It just-
Cerveza.
So yeah, their draft list has always got at least probably about 10 to 12 different beers on it, sometimes a cider. Their food menu is always really excellent, and they have these cases of beer to go, or you can have them open it there for you. And right now, they do have their full menu to go. They don't have any local sitting yet. They do have some outside tables and a patio that they're building. But
So-
you can get any of their beer to go. And so
The only problem I have about Cerveza is the name.
so
It sounds like
the woman
Cerveza, like
It, felt,
The
it
woman-
throws a lot of people off.
the woman who opened it, her name is Sarah
Sara
Sara Veza Veza.
VEZA.com.
That is literally her name, Sarah Veza.
SarahVeza.com.
Yes. So, and she's from, the Midwest. She's all about the cheeseheads. And they have some really beautiful beer paraphernalia and
like their
old
website,
collectible
too.
stuff. And it's,
Yeah, I
it's
love
simple.
the beer ads, like the
Yes.
German style, like don't forget the beer. He's got just covered in
Yes.
food, like
Nice.
plates and
And,
yeah.
and they have an attached building. They have a space attached to them in the same building that does events as well. So they do beer tastings and
See if they have any events in August.
they have nothing. Everything's been closed for
How
so
about that?
long.
September. Oh,
Yes.
just kidding.
That's
it's,
so-
it's a nice calendar, though.
Randall,
I'd just
that's
leave that up
mean.
on I'd leave that up on my computer.
You monster.
So the amazing thing with Cerveza is, so you can go there and find stuff you're not going to find in other tap rooms or other breweries or anything.
yeah.
They have really cool distribution channels or direct purchasing from places in other states. And
Yeah, fun fact, they got beer from Norfolk, Virginia once, where lived for 8 years, and I would not shut up about it. Right, Dan?
you would not shut up about it.
I was very excited.
So
all right, they're not paying us. Come
yeah,
on.
no, they're
Let's
not.
move on to the
but
beer.
we plug them freely and openly because they're freaking amazing.
Yeah.
So the first beer let me step back again. We were looking through the cooler and we're like, all right, we're going to watch Gleaming the Cube. I want to pick beers
Right.
based off of the label.
The Blake
So-
strategy.
Yes. So I picked 2 beers based off the label, and then the third one, which was the not so easy beer to drink, was one that we did not buy at Cerveza, but they did have it, but we didn't buy it there. I bought it somewhere else. Was a very challenging beer, and that was from a Seattle brewery. The other 2 were from California, and they both had a very California vibe to them. One of them called Westies, which is from Alvarado Brewing Company out of Salinas, California, had a West Coast, very stylized sunset picture with a palm tree, and I was like, "That's Gleaming the Cube."
It really was. It's such a good label.
And the label really kind of fit the beer.
It matched the movie. Check out our Instagram if you want to see pictures of this beautiful can.
Yeah, we will be adding things. We did just and speaking of Instagram, we just added to it, and we're going to be adding stuff to the page as we talk about the wonderful pictures and things
Look at
about
that
beers.
picture. It's like a sunset.
It's a sunset with a palm tree, and it's
Palm
like on the beach,
Nice
and
gradient.
it's really beautiful looking. So that was our starter beer. We had a really good time drinking it. It was not terribly hoppy. It was kind of medium bodied. We did then, after we had that, we're like, oh, we have other beers to try. So we all cracked open a can of the second one, which was called Log Boom, Boom, and that was from Seattle, Mac and Jack's Brewing.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay, yeah.
Mac and
I was
Jack's-
confused for a second. I remember the Mac and Jack part.
Yeah, Mac and Jack's is a brewery that's been around a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and they've started canning a lot of their one-offs that they have only in the brewery, and this would be one of those. And unfortunately, this one is a very challenging hop-forward beer. The citrus and the floral compete against each other. So it has an odd kind of, there's floral, but then there's this acid hit on it. So you're just like, well, this is weird.
Yeah, I had a little hard time with it.
The flake oat that they put with the malt is also kind of very chewy and medium bodied, and if you understand what they're trying to do, it's good. But if you're not a experienced beer drinker, I would say steer clear of this one.
I wasn't a fan, but you know what? I drank the other 2 cans that were in the fridge
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
because they were the last cans.
We've all been there, Randall.
Yeah, and so we totally wanted to try a Mac and Jack's can. I got this.
Yeah.
This can of beer was actually purchased in Vancouver, Washington, of all places.
Hey.
I was up there buying beer from a big beer company that are a distribution liquor store that I'm not going to mention because they're not going to pay us for it. So let's just say a big place with lots of beer and liquor. And you can probably figure out what I'm talking about.
The store.
The store. And,
Ooh, I'm gonna open a corner store and call it the store.
Copyright.
I was trying to find a bunch of different stuff from Washington because we're going to start including Washington beers with our selection of things to drink. And this one kind of was in the cooler and ready to go and wasn't that expensive. And it was in small cans, not tall boys, and a 6-pack for $10. I was like, bet. I hadn't had it before. I'd had Mac and Jack's Amber before, loved it. Thought, okay, let's give this one a try.
I love that one.
Not a starter beer.
No.
So we then finally, we kind of finished off the movie with this last beer that was out of California from Unsung Brewing Company called their Sketchbook Series Enzo, E-N-Z-O. So it's an Italian-style Pilsner. The word Enzo is obviously Italian. The label was kind of a sketch.
Of
like
a
high
gladiator,
school,
right?
Yeah, like it was like something you would see a high schooler do on their notebook or, for a class.
Or scribbling on their desk.
Yeah, and it was a really, really clean, smooth Pilsner. It didn't have as much floral as most Italian Pilsners do.
Yeah, it had. It tasted. There's more personality to it.
Yeah.
Than other Italian pilsners I've had, but
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this was a nice looking can. Dan, what makes an Italian beer so distinctive?
you
from
have to
other
have an
beers?
offensive accent while brewing.
Yes, you have to be offensive and yell in Italian. In Italy, the hops that are grown there locally have more of a floral approach to them than grassy and herbal like they do in Germany, and earthen like they do. You don't see Pilsners coming out of England
Interesting.
That's
because
true.
the hops that they have there natively do not work with Pilsners. It makes a different style of beer altogether. You can make a Pilsner malt. You can do all the same malt body, but if you use try to find similar hops, it's not going to taste anywhere like it. So Italian style Pilsners. And we did an episode previously for...
I believe Ford v Ferrari.
Yes, we did 3
Represent
Italian
the Ferrari.
Pilsners. We did 3 Pilsners, and 2 of them were from Italy, and we didn't really like them either.
Like
Because they were too floral.
Yeah.
Too
Yeah.
floral.
They were too soft and floral. This one, however, is not soft. It has a little bit of bite to it. It is well balanced with both the floralness and the citrus kind of piney approach. And it was really drinkable. I really, really liked it. Once it warmed up, the acidity kind of dropped a little bit, and it was just smooth.
So
was
that
very
first
good.
one was a West Coast IPA.
Yes.
Which I think of the 3, I actually like the Westies the best, but was really happily surprised by the how well the Enzo kind of worked out as it got warmer. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, cool.
Well, no, that's what I said about the Mac and Jack. Is the Mac and Jack opened up a bit.
Yeah.
It sounds sophisticated when I say that.
Well, it did. It like wine.
When the beer opened up.
And the beer opened
literally
up and
opened
got
the
flat. He opened the can and it got flat.
So the pale ale.
Yes. Log Boom Pale Ale. It's, challenging, really not a starter beer. And I think the highest alcohol out of all of them, too. I think it's like 6.4 or something.
You got any fun facts about pale ales?
It's the most broad ranging in styles of beer because you can call anything a pale ale and get away with it.
I like that.
Now, is it a pale ale if an albino is brewing it? Is that what makes it a pale ale?
Only if they're wearing
So it
boots.
was taking such a...
Gotcha,
Wow.
gotcha.
You don't have to
that
wear
turn
gloves,
here.
but you have to wear boots.
There's the Italians
You are,
and the albinos.
you are not a brewer. If you are not a brewer.
Hey, I didn't
if you're
do the
not wearing
accent.
boots. Yeah, there you go. He didn't.
And I can redo it. I can redo it to just be Caucasian if you
I'm
want
going to
to.
reconsider editing this episode.
Okay, so out
Give
of the
me,
3
you
beers,
give me an inch, I think I'm a ruler.
yeah, you totally know it. So out of these 3 beers, I think there were things that we liked and didn't like about each of them. As far as what we would recommend with this movie or with Gleaming the Cube in general,
I've been thinking that the whole episode.
there's a lot of approaches you can take. I would suggest finding something lighter that does have a little bit of interest to it, but not going to distract you. Because the movie, you can miss a few scenes and you'll be okay because the story's not that complex. It's just you might miss some cool ollieing, and they kept ollieing. Like the dude ollies over a freaking. What did he jumped from
Over
a street over a pool? He also ollied
Into a window.
through a window. He also
Over
on the
a
freeway.
yeah.
He ollied over the median, and I was like, "How did he do that? How are you going to launch and go that fast?"
That was incredible.
And hit the guy's gun out of his hand, which was just like, "How do you?" What?
Obviously, you're not a sick skater, bro.
I guess not. I've seen some sick skating. I watch X Games every year, and that was some pretty sick stuff going on.
So I'd say the cop in this movie was interesting to me, and he's definitely the Italian pills of the group.
I can see that.
This character was the cop in the movie that was trying to track down the brother's killer, and he was like an older version of Christian Slater's character.
He felt like a cool older brother.
Yeah, totally. So he had that vibe, but he's a little dry. You know, he also dressed really well too, though.
That's
So,
true.
Kind of florally, pretty looking. I would say the Dead Brothers is that Mac and Jack beer. The Dead
Lord.
Brothers, the Mac and Jack beer.
He went a little too far.
Yeah, some of the direction, the art choices in this film was that Mac and Jack beer. Just a little, I'm not sure
A little
why
jarring.
we're doing that. A little jarring. And that Westies was Christian Slater, obviously, just
Yeah.
like
I
the
think
cool can.
Yeah.
Like, he stayed stylish the entire movie.
Not super complex, you know. Pretty straightforward, although he had a bit of character.
A little
So,
bit, yeah. No, that's a really great analogy. Thank you, Randy,
Yeah.
for that.
Cool. Well, this episode has been brought to you by nobody.
No,
Pizza Hut.
Please sponsor us.
Yes.
Cerveza, if you like this episode, if you like getting plugged,
Yeah.
plug us up with some,
We'll holla
some
at
beer
you.
and chicken sandwiches.
Help Blake and Dan work
Help
down
us
those
out,
bar
man.
tabs.
Help us out, man. We love you guys.
So do we want to close it out?
Yeah, let's
All
close
right.
it
I think
out.
we got-
It's
All right, let's close
37 minutes, and I'm not
Yeah.
having this shit.
Oh, super
odd
size
editing.
episode. Maybe cut out some of the beginning parts.
Some of the beginning parts, I'll
Or
put in,
farting around.
put in a little music.
We did wander a
Yeah.
little bit.
And that's fine.
Okay. So thank you all for listening to this episode of Movie and a Beer. This has been Dan Kapersky. We reviewed the wonderful movie Gleaming the Cube and some 3 beers that we had. Again, always hydrate while you drink. Get that water in you, especially when it's hot outside. And as our friend Blake would say,
Hydrate or dihydrate.
you know it. So thank you all for listening. As always, the opinions expressed during the taping of this podcast are those of the hosts.
Shirtless 80s skateboarding pics of Dan on the website. Movie and a snack. Do not go to that one. And this is my son's podcast. Movieandabeer.com. And our Instagram is what?
It's Movie and a Beer. You'll find it.
Okay. Movie and a Beer. Cool.
We're out there. So thank you all again for listening. Take care.
I'm in trouble.
You got a B+ in calculus?
Gleaming the Cube.